CBS News political director John Dickerson is in Des Moines, Iowa. John, good morning.
Good morning, Charlie.
What kind of concern is there within the Obama campaign as well as across the country among Democrats about the president's message?
Well, there is some hand-wringing going on in some Democratic circles. That's kind of to be expected. That's something Democrats do a lot of. They're wringing their hands when they're not applauding. And the argument is that the Obama campaign doesn't understand where the country is and their sense of economic despair, and that the president's message is just not reaching people, that the campaign is sort of off course a little bit and missing that fundamental question of the economy.
Well, if the president doesn't understand where the country is, that's a bigger problem, isn't it?
It is a big problem, but the question is whether a president, whether an incumbent in a weak economy can message his way around the fact that basically the unemployment rate is high, that people have a sense of despair, even if they have a job, that they have a worry about their future. And that may be a fact or a set of facts that are just too big to get around with clever messaging.
What do we know about the Romney campaign and their charges about this private sector gaffe is getting traction?
Well, it gets traction in part because the president's approval rating on the economy, his approval ratings are bad. And so this is a way for the Romney campaign to kind of keep leaning on that key point. That the president's stewardship of the economy has been wrong, and that here he is, even this late in the game, he doesn't recognize the private sector is still hurting. The Obama folks would say, of course he knows it's hurting. He was making a point, though, about the private sector health versus the public sector health.
John, interesting article in the Wall Street Journal this morning about the message within the Romney camp, and that some governors, particularly in some swing states, actually want Romney to pinpoint more of the successes in the economy. Is there a messaging issue in that camp as well?
There is a little bit of one on the Republican side, not as bad as the argument going on among Democrats. But here in Iowa, for example, the unemployment rate is lower than the national average, and the governor, Terry Branstad, is talking about all the jobs that are in Iowa, also in Ohio and Virginia, where things are looking up. The governors are boasting about how they've brought jobs back to the state. And then when Governor Romney comes in and talks about how gloomy and terrible the economy is, there is a bit of a disconnect. But the argument Republicans say, what Governor Romney should say, is that what's happening in these states is proof that Republicans, when they're in charge, can improve things. Now let's do it on the national level. So it's a bit of a conflict, but one that they think can be resolved.
John, it gets more and more interesting. Thank you so much for joining us.